Hello everyone, thanks for joining me. We're in Shrewsbury and we're on a driving test again. So the young lady's taken the driving test and it did end up a positive result, so she did pass. There is an error on there which I want to just go through when we get to it anyway, but hopefully it'll just help you anyway. So we're leaving the test centre and we're going out of the way now. You can see there's parked vehicles here, there and everywhere when you come out of the driving test centre. So do make sure that you are paying attention and looking both ways before you do come out. You don't want the examiner having to stand on the brake at the beginning of the driving test. You've got all vehicles like this parked here, there and everywhere, so you've got to be able to deal with them. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow her on a driving test, see what she gets up to. And hopefully it might help you at some point in the future. So you'll be able to see exactly what happens, where you'll go, and the things that you'll be asked to do on the driving test. We can't actually show you the examiner inside the car. I can't show you the candidate either. You can't hear anything what they're saying inside the car. But to a certain extent, all it will be is just like you've been doing probably when you've been your instructor. That's turn left, turn right, or you might be even following a sat-nav where the sat-nav says turn left, turn right, or you may be where your instructor says nothing, where you are asked to follow, say, traffic signs. So, for example, if you're asked to follow a sign to say Basingstoke, or follow the signs for Croydon, or follow the signs for Birmingham, or follow the signs for Manchester. So you've got to be able to look at the signs, work out your best route through, and that's all that happens. So let's have a look. What I thought I would do as well is go through with you as well, while I've got this opportunity, to go through the top 10 reasons why people fail a driving test and what happens. What sort of things can you fail on? And I'll go with them through you anyway. We can have a look at this video and see how the young lady gets on with it. So we're going to be turning right here. So first thing is mirrors. Near signal. We're in the right hand lane. We're correct. The road's clear to the right. Keeping to the centre of the roundabout. Now this is the important bit. Make sure you're checking that left hand door mirror before you exit the roundabout. Now check your interior mirror now before you start to move away again. Alright, so just sorts of things like that. It's going through the procedure. Now all of these things you've been doing with your instructor anyway. It's just a matter of you've just got to put them into practice whilst you're on your driving test. Now during your driving test you'll be asked to stop quite a few times during your test. The examiner will ask you to stop on the left hand side in a safe, inconvenient place, just like we've done here now. Then what they'll do then is they'll ask you then to move away when it's safe to do so. So what you've got to be able to make sure is that before you move away that you have checked your rear view mirror and you've checked your blind spot before you've moved away. Make sure when you've stopped as well, cancel that left hand signal. The amount of times that people have left that left hand signal on when they're stopped on the side of the road, because the examiner isn't going to tell you to turn it off. You have got to do that yourself. So let's go through some of the top 10 reasons why people fail a driving test. Well, number one, and this has been number one for as long as I can remember actually, and that's not making effective observations at junctions. Now this does include roundabouts as well, I'm afraid. So for example, you're coming out of a junction, you're failing to judge the speed of an approaching vehicle. This could even be too fast or too slow. So when you're turning left or turning right from a minor road, you make observations but fail to judge the speed of the approaching vehicle. As you move off, you're forcing that vehicle to slow down quite a bit. So you've got to be able to make sure that you don't cause that vehicle to slow down. So you've got to understand the difference between pulling out a minor from a minor into a major road when you're in a 30 speed limit, and the same thing applies when you're pulling out of a minor road into a major road when you're in a national speed limit, because even though the vehicles they might be the same distance away, but they're travelling either a lot slower or a lot faster. So you've got to take that into account. Entering the roundabout with the vehicle approaching from the right. So again, I think that comes down to the fact that you come up to the roundabout too fast, and you're still entering the roundabout, and you're causing the vehicle to slow down or even stop. Let's come back to this video again. What we're doing here. Right, yeah. So this is a bay park. This is a forward bay park. So we've gone on to an industrial park here now. So we're now the examiner's now asked the candidate now to park in a bay. What you've got to do now is park the car up, and it's got to be fitted in between the two bays. There we are, nicely in. That's great. And in we go. Now what you can do now, if you're unsure if you're in the bays or not, open up the door. Just open up the door and have a look to see if you're in the bay. If you've got a great big massive gap by the side of you, then you must have you must be tight over on the left hand side. So you are allowed to adjust it. So you can adjust it if you so wish. Now, if you're satisfied that it's okay, the examiner then will ask you then to move away when you can. Now, it's most important that when you're backing the car up, that you are looking through that rear window. You are checking through the rear window. So make sure that you're checking through the rear window and paying attention to what's happening at the back of it. You can see it's an industrial unit. You've got customers and staff that might be, entering or leaving the premises. So you've got to be making sure. So we're going back out onto the road again for the rest of the driving test. So where was I? Right. Oh yes, when you approach a roundabout, there's a vehicle approaching from the right, and you still go onto the roundabout anyway. So that does happen, I'm afraid, and that can be caused by going far too fast up to it. And again, it's a confidence thing, I always think, because you're hoping that it'll just go away. Making no effective observations at all when emerging from a junction. This causes the vehicle from either left or right to do an emergency stop to avoid hitting you, or the examiner has to use the dual controls to stop you. Making no observations when joining a dual carriageway from a slip road. So this actually happens on this particular test, and I'll point it out to you in a few minutes. So when you're on a slip road to join a dual carriageway, you enter the dual carriageway without making any observations, so you don't give way to the traffic on the main carriageway. Going straight ahead at crossroads. So when you approach a crossroads, you don't recognise that it's a junction, and then you emerge and cross the road junctions across the crossroads without making any observations left or right. This can happen when it's an unmarked junction, because there are lots of them about now, particularly on some of these. I've noticed on these new estates where they've got there's no road markings on them. It's a junction. You've just got to be making sure that you are looking when you come into them. When you're emerging from a junction, you'll look too late, either to the left or right, for the observations to be effective, as you're already partly into the road. So you do have to be careful of that. Now this is one. Repeatedly not looking left when turning left. Now, when you're turning left, what most people do is look over to the right and then go, and that's the wrong thing to do. What you've got to make sure that you're doing is making sure that before you do go left, you are looking left, because there could be something. And it's just happened actually when we were on this particular test. I don't know if you just saw it, where after we did the Bay Park and we were leaving the car park and the vehicle gave way so we could go. The candidate there was making sure that she did look left before she emerged. So that's the things you've got to be able to do is making sure that you are paying attention to the left. When we left the test centre at the beginning of the video, you did see the parked vehicles and obstructions or other possible hazards that were there, and they were all there, and that's why it's always important to look to the left. Okay, so what are we doing here now on this video? Oh yeah, well, we're turning right here. There's traffic lights on that road down there. So as we turn right here now, there are traffic lights. Where the problem is here is the traffic builds up. It's moving at the moment. You can see just in the distance the traffic is moving, but it does start to clog up a little bit in a minute, which you'll see. It's one of those things you do have to be aware of, I'm afraid. So let's have a look. We're going to move off in a minute. Yeah, well, anyway, coming back to the number 2, what do we got here? Number 2, not using mirrors correctly when changing direction. So, for example, here, you're turning right, mirror check before you turn right. Oh, there's the traffic starting to clog up there now a little bit. It's left us stranded slightly into the middle there a little bit. But it should move, it should shift eventually, that should. It's always hard, when it's like this. These are the things that you do have to deal with. You can never tell. You can't tell whether that traffic is light or it's heavy. Another few minutes in, it might have been clear as a bell, and another few minutes later it's chock-a-block. You can never tell, but you've got to be able to deal with it anyway. Okay, so coming back to the top 10 again. So number 2, not using mirrors correctly when changing direction. So any mistakes that you may make under this heading will be counted under mirrors change direction fault in your report. So not using your mirrors when exiting a roundabout. So for example, when you need to exit the roundabout, you're not checking the left-hand door mirror, and you've got to be able to do that before you can move over. Causing the vehicles to slow down when changing lanes on a dual carriageway. So this happens whereby you could be going too slow down the dual carriageway and you've got a slow moving vehicle in front, and you just simply move over with no consideration to checking it first before you move over. Or like, say for example, or when you're like driving on a roundabout and you try to change lanes when there's a vehicle directly alongside you, and the examiner then has to then take control of the steering to prevent you colliding into the vehicle that's by the side of you. So as you exit roundabouts, you just got to make sure that you are checking that left-hand door mirror before you exit the roundabout. Okay, so coming back to the video. Yeah, well, traffic started to move off a little bit now. Yeah, lights have changed. Well, they did change. They're on red now, I see. Yep, so anyway, coming back to this top 10 again. Number 3, not moving off safely. As I said, you will be asked to pull up and stop on the left hand side quite a few times during your driving test. So what you'll probably see it in a few minutes anyway, where the examiner will ask you to pull up and stop on the left hand side and just keep about a car's length away, and then ask you to move off again when it's safe to do so. So you've got to be able to make sure that you are checking before you move away. When you're moving off, don't forget, make sure that you are checking your blind spot before you move away. Now this is most important. I usually find this is something that happens, say for example, you've had some driving lessons and you've had some driving lessons. Anyway, you're going to practice now with mum or dad, and you pull up and stop. So what tends to happen is that you'll check your right hand door mirror and then move off. Your parents, unfortunately, probably won't recognise that is a fault which will fail you on a driving test, and that's the sort of thing you'll do. Now this does happen where they're practicing on their own, is that they're failing to do things like that, and it is most important. So when you've pulled up on the side of the road and the examiner's asked you to move away again, make sure that you are checking your right hand blind spot before you move away. When you're pulled up, so we'll look what we're doing here. Oh, just pull up stop on the left hand side again. So move off again whenever you're ready. So of course this goes through this mirrors signal. Make sure again that you look over your right shoulder before you move away. Pulling off from the right hand side of the road, causing vehicles to alter direction and swerve and slow down. This is after you've done the reverse back 2 car lengths on the right hand side, so you do have to make sure that you are are checking over your left shoulder, see, before you move away, and not making any observations following an emergency stop. So for example, when you've done an emergency stop and the examiner's asked you to for the emergency stop, and so you've stopped, put your handbrake on, and it's time to move on, because the examiner is only there to see how you get on. It's all the examiner will say to you is just thank you, move off when safe to do so. And it's up to you. You've got to demonstrate to the examiner that you're paying attention to what's happening around you. So if you don't make any proper observations before you move off, I'm afraid that will go down as a serious fault. So let's come back to this. Where are we going now? Up to the next roundabout. We'll probably be going straight ahead at it. As long as we're clear, just keeping the car going, making sure you've got the correct gear in, slow down in plenty of time. Again, mirrors, most important, which, I think I've said enough about that. So going along. So I don't know what's going on here. Right, we're slowing down a little bit. So this is what I was talking about before. The examiner may ask you to pull up and stop on the left hand side and just in front or behind a stationary vehicle, like we've done now, but leave yourself about a car's length away. So this is the move away safely at an angle. So is all that's being tested here is that can you pull away safely? Have you cancelled that indicator? Are you paying attention to what's happening? Or are you just simply going to move off? So make sure it's clear. Don't forget looking over that right shoulder, checking your blind spot, making sure it's clear to go. Make sure that you can see ahead. It depends on the position whereabouts you are, but on this particular shot, although that you can't actually see it that well yourself, but you can actually look through the window of the car to see if there's anything coming towards you. So there we are, we're coming up to the roundabout now. We're going to be turning right at it. So turning right, got to make sure you're clear to the right, that's all you've got to do. It's always tempting to look to the left. It's so tempting to look to the left and expect them to just stop them. But you've got, if you're clear to the right, go. That's the thing to do. As long as it's safe to go by all means. Okay, so coming back to this top 10 reasons, let's have a look. Number 4, incorrect positioning when turning right at your junction. Now then, any mistakes that you make in this area will be counted under the junctions turning right on your driving test report. This happens, and you'll find this will happen in a one-way street. That is positioning in the left-hand lane when turning right at a roundabout. Turning right. This happens on one-way streets as well, I'm afraid, whereby they're in the left-hand lane turning right at the end of a one-way street, but it happens a lot at roundabouts as well. So when you're turning right at a roundabout, you use a left-hand lane when it's not appropriate, and you continue round the roundabout in the left-hand lane, and that causes confusion to people that are around you, because they're looking at you thinking, what on earth are you doing? Obstructing traffic when you wait to turn right. Now this will happen, for example, if you want to turn right, say for example as we're going down this road now here, as you see it, if there's a road on the right and you wanted to turn right at it, that you're positioned too far over to the left, which then forces the traffic at the back of you to wait, because if you'd have moved over into the centre, they would be able to pass you on your left hand side. Where there's no road markings and you position to your left lane when you're actually turning right, or you're too far over to the right hand side, that can also go against you as well, I'm afraid. So you do have to make sure that you are positioned correctly before you turn right. Again, these are some of the things that you'll need to be going through with your instructor. Number 5, not responding appropriately to traffic lights. So, I mean, failing to respond to a red traffic light. When the red light's showing, you attempt to proceed through the red light. This can happen just as you approach the green light, and then just as you get to it, the lights change. But there's plenty of time for you to stop, and you just try to continue through. That will go against you as well. Stopping after the first white line when there are advanced stop lines. Now, they're about everywhere now. They're where you'll see them at a traffic light, and what you've got is you've got 2 lines, and between the 2 lines you've got a picture of the cycle, and that's the advanced stop line for cyclists. So you've got the advanced stop line. So what you need to do as a car driver, you've got to stop before the first white line. When you are not progressing, when you're waiting to turn right at a junction, it's safe to proceed. So, for example, you're turning right at the traffic light, and you've stopped. You're waiting there, and the lights have just changed to red. Just as you're waiting, the lights change to red. Okay, at that point you must go. You must go because if you stayed in the middle, you will completely block the junction. You will completely block it. The vehicle that's coming ahead of you can't go, so it's safe for you to proceed. Not going ahead when the green light is showing and the junction head is clear. So this happens actually when you've got one of those filter lights, and that's just the single arrow, so it's, that just lights up. So there's a few of them about around the countryside now, I've noticed. So you'll find those whereby you can turn left. You can't go straight ahead, but you can turn left. So if you're turning left and you're just there not proceeding, so you've got to keep your eye on it there. When the lights are green, and you go ahead, even though the junction is not clear, this means that you're blocking the road. So, for example, if, say, for example, the traffic's building up, and you're entering into it and you're blocking it up, then what that simply means is that when the lights change, you'll be blocking the junction up completely. This nearly happened actually on the beginning of this driving test, if you so remember, where we were waiting to turn right and we're following that van. So you've got to be careful of that. So let's come back to the video again. Where are we going now? So the speed limit here alters quite a bit actually, because it goes 50, 40, 30, and it goes all over the place. So again, making sure that you are making normal progress. As you can see, we're going down here now. We're doing all right. We've got a speed up there. Positioning is good, and that's fine. Okay, so number 6, not having proper control of the steering. So what I always call the thruppeny bit steering. Not steering enough or steering too late on the approach to junctions when turning left. This causes the vehicle to go up onto the curb, or it causes the vehicle to go over to the right hand side. Not steering enough when you're going around a bend, so you're not applying enough steering, so that causes the vehicle to go all over the place. When you're pulling up on the left hand side as well, and you mount both side wheels before the car comes back onto the road again. So for example, if you were asked to pull up and stop on the left hand side, of course then it's having that nice steady control steering. Steering too late when moving out to pass parked vehicles. So that means when you're skimming, or as I call skimming them, in other words getting far too close to the stationary vehicle. So let's come back to the video again. So we're coming up to the traffic lights now by, is it, yeah, Mole Brace here. So we're going to be going straight ahead here. Let's have a look. Yep. Okay. Right, we've got a good position there. Okay, so this is the lane that we want. And that's it. Oh my God, what are we doing? Oh, what are you trying to do to me? Right. Okay, well, we're in the lane. We are going the right way. The only problem there is, and this is what I was explaining to you at the beginning of the video, that the fault that happened. Let me just show you what we should have done. I'll just use another clip and you'll be able to see it. So this is where we were, and this is where we should have been, is here. So the position's fine. So all you've got to do is stay in lane. It's most important. Just stay where you are. Just stay here. And this now will put you in the correct position. You'll see in a minute when we revert back to the original clip where we're in the lane where that car is just to the right of us is now. So there we are, we're there. Now we are still going the right way, but we're causing ourselves unnecessary problems here, because the next roundabout we're going to go straight ahead. Now you're probably thinking, right, well, you know, they've moved over there. What's happened there is the candidate did check before they moved over. They did check it. They did do. I don't know why they've moved over, but they have. But there you go. It's one of those things, I'm afraid. Easy to be wise after the event. So we're going straight ahead. So both lanes now are aimed straight ahead. So we're okay there. Where the problem is here is what's on the left hand side of you. That's your problem now. You can see the car that's just going there now, and we're going, and they're also going straight ahead. So now, most important, check that left hand door mirror. Now you're back in the left hand lane again, and it's fine. But all of that could have been avoided simply by staying in the lane, and that's all it is there. So don't do that to me again. Anyway, back to the top 10 reasons. Number 7, not responding correctly to traffic signs. Going the wrong side of a keep left sign. This is one where you get those, like there's islands in the middle, and you've got the keep left signs, and people go on the wrong side of it. Ignoring a stop sign or a no entry sign where it's clearly marked. Oh, this is a slip road. So just coming back to the video, this is a slip road where observation at junctions. So what you've got to do now is make sure that you are paying attention now. Keep your eye on that right hand door mirror indicating right. Keep your eye on these mirrors. Get your speed up. If you've got a gap, then put your foot down and go. That's it, and away we go. It's clear, that's great. All the traffic's over on the right hand side. It's clear, so that's fine. Right, so let's come back to again. Yes, ignoring stop signs or a no entry sign. So that's where you've got the stop sign, which is clearly marked. You've got a thick white line right in front of it, and it says stop, and you must stop. You've got to come to a complete stop. You can put your handbrake on if you so wish. There's no requirement to do it, but one of the ways to do it is to stop and put your handbrake on. but I always just prefer just to stop. If you stop and that stop turns out to be, that pause turns out to be a wait, then I would apply the handbrake, but make sure that you do stop. No entry. People try to go down a no entry. They go down one of them, so you've got to be able to understand and deal with them. Driving in a buzz lane. So you're driving in a buzz lane when there's signs, and it's cleared signs showing that you can't use it at that particular time. And choosing the wrong lane at a roundabout with clear signage. When you're approaching a roundabout and you get in the wrong lane, when a sign clearly shows which lane you should go in, and then you go around the roundabout in the wrong lane. Acting too late or not at all to all speed limit changes. So on this particular test that she's on now, the speed limit does alter quite a bit, as you've seen, and it does do. It does. So you've got to be able to make sure that you're responding to it. So if you're in a 40 mile an hour speed limit road and it changes down to 40 to 30, sorry, then you need to make sure that you're doing that. Okay, let's have a look back to the video again. What are we going to do here? Oh right, yeah, big roundabout here, controlled by traffic lights, and we're going to go straight ahead, third exit. Now, the best lane to use when you're going straight ahead here is the left-hand lane. Let's have a look. Are you going to get it? Please. Yes. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, that's okay. So we're going straight ahead, third exit. And we're following the A5 East. So traffic start to move. Make sure you keep your eye on those traffic lights. Don't just follow the traffic through. Make sure it's clear. Yep, we're clear. Now stay in lane. Don't get wandering from one lane to another lane. Just stay in lane. Oh, something happened there with the clip. Anyway, we've done it anyway, so that's the main thing. We've stayed in lane. So again, picking the speed back up, keeping an eye on the mirrors. We're in the left-hand lane, which is the normal lane to be in anyway. That's okay. That's great. The speed limit on a dual carriageway is 70, so making sure that you're putting your foot down and getting cracking. Okay, so coming back to the top 10 reasons. Number 8, not responding correctly to the road markings. That includes those box junctions as well, and the arrows that are on the road that we've seen there before now on this video anyway, where we're all over the place. When you approach a roundabout, and when you're on the roundabout, and we saw on that clip as well, where we're going from one lane to the other lane. The reason why this candidate has been okay with that particular one is because that they have checked it before they moved. Now, if they hadn't checked it, it would have resulted in a fail, I'm afraid. So you've got to make sure that you have got to check those mirrors and get in the correct lane for what it is that you're doing. And crossing the solid white lines, that comes back to your steering and your position during normal driving. A box junction, well, we've dealt with one of them on this test. That's where we went over the level crossing, whereby that's those crisscross yellow lines painted in the road. You either enter it partially or fully when the exit's not clear, or not following road markings at mini roundabouts, and that's one thing you've got to be able to do. Okay, number 9, poor positioning on the road during normal driving. Okay, you must make sure that your car's positioned correctly. So we're driving off down the road now, and there's your solid white line right next to us. We've got a good position here. We're not straddling the centre line, and we're not driving in the ditch either. We've got a good position. We're just nice and central, and that's your ideal position. Now, in a moment, we're going to be changing lanes because we're going to be going straight ahead. So what you've got to be able to do is make sure that you are checking that left-hand door mirror before you make your change. So as you can see, we're going up here now, and we're not tight to the centre. We're not we're over to the left hand, so we're in our normal driving position, and that's fine. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong. That's okay. That is. It's okay. So that's okay to do. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, this is the bit I was talking about, whereby in a moment we're going to be going straight ahead. So there we are, I'm going to follow the road straight. So what we're going to do now is check that right hand door mirror. Over we go, and there we go. That's okay. So there's the vehicle on the left hand side there. That's in a lane that's designated for turning left only. And they're going left. And we're in a lane that's designated turn right or go straight ahead. So make sure now, check that left hand door mirror before you go. That's fine. So the test is nearly over now. So let's have a look. Coming back to the top 10 again. So where were we? Oh, right, yeah. Driving too close to the curb or driving too close to the centre of the road. Because if you're driving too close to the curb, you're putting pedestrians at risk. And if you're driving too far over to the centre, you're putting the vehicles that are coming the other way at risk as well. Unnecessarily driving on the right hand side on the dual carriageway. This usually happens after you've turned right and you end up in the right hand lane and you're staying in the right hand lane, and that's one of the big problems there. Okay, and number 10, not driving at a safe and reasonable speed. What you've got to be able to do is to take into consideration the speed limit that's the road that you're on. So you've got to be paying attention to that. So you've got to be able to make sure that you're driving along at a speed that is appropriate. Like for example here, we've got a national speed limit. The speed limit is 60. We're bombing along here quite nice. We've got a good road position. There's nothing wrong with this at all. So we're going to be asked here now to go straight ahead, second exit towards Ellesmere. So the driving test is nearly over now anyway, so we're going back to it. So mirrors first, that's your interior mirror. That's the main one. Bring the speed down, making sure that you're paying attention to what's happening to the right. If it's clear, then continue on your way, making sure you've got the right gear. Now follow the profile of the roundabout, keeping in, again, that left-hand door mirror, and away we go. Okay, so we got the speed limit again, which is the national one. So again, mirrors, and speed up, making progress from it. And then what you've got to be able to do is adjust the speed. So for example, if it was chucking it down with rain now, or it was a bumpy surface or whatever, then you would have to reduce the speed down. So you've got to pay attention to the speed limits that are on the road there. So we're coming towards the end of the driving test now, so we're now going to approach the next roundabout. I'm going to be turning left at it, and this is where the speed limit drops again. So I'm going to be turning left at the roundabout. So mirrors, signal, keeping into your left hand side, making sure that you're clear to the right hand side. You're clear. That's it, and then go. Lovely. There we are. And away you go. Next roundabout, we're going to be turning right. Around you go. Keep it to the centre. keep going round, keep going round. Left hand door mirror check, and away you go. Lovely. One more roundabout to do, and that's it. Well, I hope you found the video interesting and informative, but that's what happens on a driving test. This is a candidate that took the driving test. Let's have a look, when was it? October. And there you are. It resulted in a pass. As you see, there was a mistake there with that roundabout 8 mile brace. But anyway, the thing was, they did check the mirrors, but you can understand now the importance of staying in lane and paying attention to what's happening around you. So the examiner's just asked the candidate to pull up again. Bear in mind you're still on driving test. There's a roundabout at the back of you, so make sure that you are paying attention. Don't just move off, because it'd be horrible now to make a mistake at this point of the driving test. So make sure you're clear, keep your eye on the mirrors, most important. Check your mirrors, indicate left, and we're turning left in towards the test centre now. So that's the end of the driving test. The examiner's now going to ask you to go into the car park and park the car up. What will happen is that there's a few there waiting to go back in, they've finished or going in or whatever. But what will happen now is that the examiner now will ask you to pull into the car park. As soon as you're pulled up and start, they'll just say switch your engine off, secure the car. Just give me a moment while I complete my paperwork, and they will say to you, right, well, that's the end of the driving test. I'm pleased to tell you that you've passed. Could I see your license again, please? And then they will then proceed to fill in the details. So there you are. That's what happens on a driving test. Anyway, hope you found it helpful, and look out for other videos. And thank you very much for watching. And bye for now.